Welcome to the Dairy Center in the Canton Heritage Center. My name is Jim Morgan. I'm one of the founding members of the Canton Heritage Center. We've been open since 2018, and we have a very nice museum. We'd encourage you to come and visit. And so we're going to talk about the dairy section today. The dairy industry started pretty strong in the 1930s, and Canton was not an exception. Several dairies opened up in the 1930s, and I'll be telling you about those in a little bit. The early bottles that the dairies used, this bottle is embossed with the name of the dairy on it, and those were used in the 1930s and up until the 1940s. And then in 1939, during the World's Fair, they advertised what they call pyro glazing, and the dairy started using these bottles because they could advertise on the backside, advertise their cottage cheese or ice cream, whatever other products they sold. But this process is called pyro glazing, and they really bake this paint on the bottle so it withstands a lot of washings, and this became the go-to bottle for dairies after the 1940s. There were 5 major dairies in Canton, and I'll tell you a little bit about those. The first one is the Sin Sodwell Dairy. This is one of their bottles there. The Sodwells were famous dairy people from Pekin. They had a large family. Fred Sodwell had 5 sons, and they all were trained in the dairy business. In 1935, he sent his son Carl over to Canton to start a dairy, and Carl ran that dairy along with his son Jack for many, many years. It was located on South First Street. They also had a dairy store on First Avenue, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But Sin Sodwell, the Sin name actually comes from Jack's brother-in-law, and they actually dropped that name later on, but originally it was called the Sin Sodwell Dairy. This dairy was the last one to close in Canton. Jack was, of course, Carl's son, and he sold the dairy in 1977 to Prairie Farms, and he continued to work for Prairie Farms in Peoria until he retired. And just as a side note, Prairie Farms pretty much purchased all the dairies in Illinois, some in Indiana, some in Missouri, and of course Prairie Farms is still out there doing dairy things today. The next dairy, Seabury Dairy, was opened in the 1930s also. They had a farm out near Canton Lake where they processed the milk and had their cows. And the Seabury Dairy also had a store on East Chestnut Street. All of the Canton dairies had local retail locations besides delivering milk to the houses. And the Seabury family was very much involved in that operation throughout history, and the last patriarch of the Seabury Dairies just passed away here just a couple of months ago. George Jr., his father George Sr. is the one that started that dairy, so a long-time dairy family. The next dairy I want to talk about is the Ketchum Dairy. And the Ketchum Dairy was out at Monterey, Illinois, which is about 5 miles east of Canton on Route 9. That's where the dairy farm was. The Ketchum Dairy did not have a retail outlet, so they just delivered their milk, or you could buy it from the farm direct. But it was started in the 1930s also by the Ketchum family, and those bottles are the most rare bottles of the Canton collectible bottles for milk bottles. They're very scarce and hard to find, and very desirable by the collectors. The next dairy is the Goldenrod Dairy. This is one of their bottles. The Goldenrod Dairy, there's quite a history behind that, and I'll be spending a little more time telling you about that. Gilbert Stein was a 1933 graduate of Canton High School, and so he's kind of a famous local son. He used to peddle milk around town on his bicycle. His dad had a dairy farm right on the east side of Canton. He did that all through high school, and he was a very enterprising young man, even as a high school student. When he graduated at Canton High School in 1933, he opened the Goldenrod Dairy because he had a lot of experience selling milk as a teenager. So he ran the Goldenrod Dairy. It was out on East Chestnut, or East Locust, I'm sorry. And he was very successful at that. He also purchased a defunct dairy in Galesburg and rejuvenated it to where it was profitable. And in about 1940, he got involved with the Dairy Queen Company, and he opened the ninth Dairy Queen in Normal, Illinois. And he later became the franchise seller of all Dairy Queens in Illinois and some in Indiana and Iowa. He owned 28 Dairy Queens. He later became the president of Dairy Queen International. He did move to Springfield in 1940 or so, and so he did leave Canton, but he's one of the most successful dairymen ever to come from Canton, Illinois, and we like to tell his story. He was quite a philanthropist. He's very well known in Springfield, even though the Canton likes to claim him as their son. But anyway, he passed away in 2011, and he did come back to Canton after his end, and he's buried in the White Chapel Gardens here in Canton. And so anyway, quite a famous guy, and we've told his story before in some of our newsletters, but a lot of people don't realize what an accomplishment he was for our community. The last dairy is Hegley Dairy. The Hegley family came from Lincoln, Illinois, and they were successful dairy people there. They sent one of their sons to Canton, and they purchased the Goldenrod Dairy after Mr. Stein decided to get out of the dairy business and into the Dairy Queen business. And so they ran the dairy on East Locust, where the Goldenrod Dairy was, and they were a very successful dairy in Canton. And so we have those 5 dairies: Goldenrod, Hegley, Ketchum, Seabury, and San Sodwiddle. We do have some special artifacts, I guess, that I'd like to point out to you. This dairy clock here is the only one that we know. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's the only one that's not owned by the family. A very rare piece. It was in the dairy store on First Avenue. This picture here is a picture of the Divco milk delivery trucks. That's DIVCO. That was a company that made those special trucks for delivering milk. San Sodwiddle was the only one that used dairy trucks that we know of, or that we have evidence of. So that's a kind of a special thing. And in addition, this Sin's cream can here is one of a kind that we have found. Not many of those out there anywhere. Most people probably know that milk bottles were delivered to homes, and the milk was set on the porch, and they were stored in these metal containers here. So every morning, or how often you requested milk to be delivered, the trucks would come and put the bottles in the metal cartons, and you just had to make sure in the wintertime that you got your milk out of there as quickly as possible, because it would freeze and pop the cap off the top and milk all over your little box on your porch. So something that you had to be timely about. Another really rare item we have here is these shoulder patches from Sin's Dairy. Those were sewn on the shoulders of the driver's patch, or their uniforms, and this is the only set that we've ever seen, so they're quite rare. The other thing I'd like to point out is By the 1950s, milk bottles were starting to change, and they started making square milk bottles. And the reason for that was they fit in the refrigerator much better instead of the round ones. So most of the dairies went from round bottles to square bottles, and we have a lot of examples of different ones. This one is one of Sin's here. This is a half a gallon, and it's got, you know, green paint on one side and red on the other. And the other interesting thing, during the war, milk bottles were a great advertising item for purchasing war bonds and stamps to support the war. And so a lot of milk companies advertise, and those bottles are called war slogan bottles, and they're highly collectible and desirable by collectors. And we have some of those here that you can stop in and look at. Anyway, Canton has got a rich history of dairies, and we'd like to invite you to come in, and we can tell you more about some of the people who ran these dairies. It's an interesting story, and we'd be glad to share that with you and show you the artifacts that we have in our museum.
My name is Philip Gregory. I'm with the Canton Heritage Center. I've been with the museum now about 6 to 8 years, and I really enjoy working here. And I'm going to talk today about the Canton cigar manufacturers. And Canton at one time was the largest manufacturer in the Midwest in the 1890s, producing about 20 million handmade cigars annually. Cigar boxes were also made in Canton to supply many companies making cigars at the time. The largest company was the Canton Cigar Box Factory, which was owned by U.G. Orendorff. During the peak time, they produced about 1,500 boxes per day of various cigar manufacturers in Canton. The boxes displayed are rare and hard to find today. Here are some of the companies that made the cigars. Dean, Armstrong, Irely, Hicks and Keeling, Seville and Rafferty, Garland and Schnur, Sullivan Brothers, Armstrong, McCurry and Trice, W.O. Dean, and Divla Bliss. This here box here was W.O. Dean, our founder, and he was the first one that had a major company here in town build a big, huge brick factory. He employed over 400 people, and he was the first one to hire women in his factories. And here's a picture of some of the women in his factories. And these women had a name. They were called strippers because they stripped the leaf off of the stem. So that's where they got the name, the strippers. Over here is one of the only Glenwood Cigar Company from a famous painting, 1891, that was mutilated by a religious crank in Omaha. This calendar is 1892. Down here you have Seville and Rafferty Cigars, big poster. Over this way you got a lot of different companies and different manufacturers. This is Sea King. This was J.J. Curtis, the first one in 1855. Curtis was the first one to open up a cigar making company in Canton. And anyway, he ended up employing 12 people, and they produced about 150 cigars a day back then. Some of these other ones, at one time Canton had a plow company, P&O Plow, and this is a cigar box that was P&O City, the Canton plant. Here's Dean's Cantonola. Here's Irely Brothers Speed King. So they had lithographs that they would put on these boxes, and you could order whatever you wanted and have it put on your boxes. Over here is Popular City. Canton shows different areas around Canton, the different buildings and factories. These are some of the cigars, original cigars that were made back in those days. Each company had their own style. You can tell by looking at these two different ones that there's two different styles of cigars here. It's hard to find the cigars anymore. They're pretty old. Also, back in those days, there was 14 major factories around Canton, but there was also what they called Buckeye cigar makers, and they were little mom and pop cigar makers, just maybe a couple of family members, and they were located up around the square above the buildings, up in the upstairs, and they just produced their own little small quantity of cigars. Over here, we have Uriah Heep, W.O. Beam and Dean maker, no artificial flavor used in my factory, Canton, Illinois. And this was called Uriah Heep. And Charles Dickens, in his book, this was the villain in his book. Uriah Heep was a villain. And this box over here is made by the Canton Manufacturing Cigar Company, box company, I mean, and they produce boxes, one of the few that produce boxes in this town. There's also stuff in here. There's a mold for making cigars. Here's some interesting boxes down here. This is area Lewistown cigar box. Little towns around the area had their own companies. And this here is a Farmington, which is about 10 miles from Canton. St. David's about 4 miles away. Astoria's about 20 miles away. And Cuba is about 10 miles away. So there was other companies that made, they were called little mom and pops Buckeye shops, and they would make cigars too. And at one time, they produced quite a few cigars. What happened to cigars? Back about 1890 is when they peaked out. But then after that, what happened was in the 1920s, cigarettes became popular, and people kind of got away from cigars and went more with the cigarettes. And by the 1940s, the cigar companies in Canton had all faded away. Back in the day, when they made the cigars, these lithographs, you could order what you wanted and put your own name on them. But what's interesting about this one was Indian brand, but this one is Smoke Redskin Cigars, and it became politically incorrect to say Indians, Redskins, so they crossed it out and deleted it because it's politically incorrect. These are some of the things, the tools that you could get when you were buying a cigar box of cigars. This is a hammer and a nail puller, because these were all nailed shut, and you could have a nail puller here, and then you had a hammer so when you were done. But this is also, you could cut off the tip of your cigar to smoke it. And here's one of the little hammers. These are actually Canton made ones. This is Irely Success, and this is a tall sycamore, Irely Brothers, Canton, Illinois. Here is one of the molds that they would make. You would put your cigar in there and then mold it. And here's an unusual jar. This is Beam Dean Company, District of Illinois, factory number 14. This is an amber jar. It would hold 50 cigars. And that's kind of rare to find that. Over here, this is came from a store, and we sell Armstrong cigars, Canton, Illinois. And what this is cast iron, and you have a little wind-up thing here on the side, and it would wind it up, and then you would take your cigar and you would stick it in here, and it would cut the ends off so you could smoke your cigar and try out, say if you wanted to try a certain type or a certain brand. And as far as we know, this is the only one we've ever found. Okay, I think that's it.